Hey everyone, Brad the mechanic here. Today we're working on a 2004 Audi A6. This is the Quattro. What we're going to be doing is removing and replacing the struts. As you can see, it sits pretty low right now. That's because the coil spring on the front strut has broken. And so in that case, we got the quick struts, which already have the springs installed on the strut. Makes it a little bit easier. Compressing the spring isn't too terribly hard. You just need the right tool to do it. I don't recommend buying any of the AutoZone, bolt type compressors to do it, because if you do just want to change the spring, you can. You just need a spring compressor. So with that, we're going to get started. And first, we're going to jack up the car safely and put it on jack stands and get the wheels taken off. So these hubcaps are these bolt covers. You just got to be very careful, and you can pry it out. It comes out like that. Then inside here is 5 17mm studs. Now those are studs, not wheel lug nuts, so when you take them off, the wheel is just held on by a little center cap or a lip on the center. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jack it up on the frame rail. You might sometimes have to lift them up a little bit when the spring breaks because they're so low. But get it on the frame rail, not on the body. And then we'll jack it up here and get the wheel off. Now if you look here, you can see the spring is busted. It's like off of the strut itself. So luckily, it didn't destroy anything else in here. But what we'll have to do is we're going to get this bolt out here. That's a nut and then a through bolt. Then we're going to pop the hood and take the 3 bolts off of the top that hold this sucker in there. And I may be taking out the one or more of the control arm, the upper ball joints, to lower the control arm to get everything out. So we'll see. But sometimes I can just get them out and get them in, but we'll see right now. But we're going to start by getting that bolt off. So if you look here, it looks like the spring, if the spring didn't do it, then this just needs to be changed. But if you look here, you see this boot is torn. That means you're going to need to change that CV shaft eventually. I mean, you could change the boot and put more grease in it, but most likely you'll just get a new CV shaft and replace that. And when they come back to do it, I'll make a video of it. But for now, we're going to bust this off and pull the nut out from the back, and then get to the top for those other 3 bolts. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off and see if I can articulate the shock enough to get that bolt out. So that's going to be our next step, is taking these screws out and moving this coolant reservoir. Alright, so I have removed this coolant reservoir. Just took 1 screw and then it kind of pops out and moves. Then it's got a 16 mil down here that we're going to release and loosen to get that strut out. Okay, so after loosening that, bolt, I was able to get this out. But what I did is I just took this and punched it through and pushed this bolt out. And then when I put it back together, I'm going to be a good engineer and I'm going to put it fucking this way so that you can remove it again. I know sometimes there's a reason for the articulation of each bolt, but this one doesn't fucking matter. So you can put it in this way and not have to fucking deal with it next time you're pulling it out. I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place, but I did wiggle this. It's starting to come loose up here. So I'm going to pull this thing out and we'll be able to set the new one in there. All right, so now that I've gotten the lower bolt out and I pushed it through with the punch, so I didn't have to take the lower control arm off. There's this trim piece, this weather stripping. It's all right here. You're going to pull that off. Okay, pull that off, and then the plastic piece right here, that just comes right off, pops off. Boop. And then there's 1, 16, 2, and 3 16 mil bolts that you're going to have to take out. Once you get those out, this part under here is going to come down. And once you come down and get enough room, we'll be able to get the 3 bolts that are on top of this actual strut. All right, so there's a few extra steps than a normal vehicle, but we're going to get it done. Okay, so we got those 3 16 mil bolts off. Now we're going to come down here. We're going to remove this tie rod end, because when we remove this, it's going to allow this to come down a lot further. So we're going to bust this off, and then we're going to be able to get more access to those 3 bolts up top there. Okay, to get this out, there's a 13 mil on top and a 16 mil right here. And it's just a nut, and the bolt comes through like this, right? Now this holds this tie rod end in there. There is a little tab right here, that line, if you can see it, to hit it with the pry bar, or with the chisel. So then you're going to want to come into the side here, see how it's going in, pry that up in there, and this tie rod end will come out. Now once you get this to come loose, it'll come down. There is a stud right here that it gets stuck on. So you got to pry down with some kind of pry bar. I used that or something. No, I used that to get this down. And then once it comes down, it all comes down. And now my next problem is going to be getting these rusted fucking bolts off. But that's the next step. And then we're going to take the strut off and replace it with a new one. Yeah. All right, you guys, so in order to get this lower control arm to go down far enough for you to get the holes lined up, you'll have to take off the sway bar link right here. It's just a 16 mil bolt that goes through. Pop that off, and this will lower the control arm enough for you to have ease of access to get this in there, because it was a pain without lowering that. So get that lowered, and then you'll be able to fit this in here, get the 2 nuts up on the top, and then push it into place and get the 3 bolts and then the bolt down here. All right, so in order to get it all the way out, I did loosen that lower ball joint and popped it out, and it made it come down just a little bit easier. So now, in order to get this in, I have my pry bar right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down, and you'll be able to see this moves, and you'll be able to line up that strut. So what I usually do is when I'm doing it, I just kind of lean on it and push down while I'm using my hands to get in there. So that'll make it a lot easier to get that bolt in there. And also important to remember, this is the ride height detector. You got to pop this little clip off. It's just a little, you get your flathead in there and pop this up, and it comes open. And then you can take this off so that when you lower the control arm, it doesn't mess with the ride height, the ride level sensor. So yeah, just make sure we're not breaking shit when we're taking this apart. All right, so you get the 3 16 bolts in there, the 2 13s that hold the strut to the strut tower. Then we're going to come down. There's the, I believe it's a 18 right here on both sides. And we got the ride height sensor right here, ride level sensor that we popped off. We did pop out the lower control arm, or the ball joint right here, in order to get this control arm to come down. It might be easier to bring these out, but when I started pulling this out, it didn't feel like it wanted to come out, so I didn't take it out. But it might be easier just to take this out, these 2 out, and then that whole thing will come out and you can change the strut. So, okay, so after doing the other strut, I found that if you remove this lower control arm, it's an 18 mil here and there's an 18 mil nut on the other side. Take this 18 out, and there's an 18 down here, that bolt. Take that bolt out and that out. That's kind of a pain in the ass to get out because there's a nylon lock washer on it, or I mean a nylon lock nut, so you got to put force on it the whole time to bring that out. But then it'll make this strut just practically fall out, you see? So it can just come straight down and you can get it out. All right, so let's do that instead of the hard way that I kind of just showed you. I mean, you can do it either way. The easiest way, I will say, would be to unbolt this from here and remove these upper control arms and the ball joints, because this coming off will make that way easier. But my problem was with that bolt right here. Geez, focus, would you? The bolt right there wouldn't come out, and I was afraid I was going to break it. So that's why I've been showing you to take the lower control arms, because this one would not come out. But if it does for you, this is going to be the easiest way to remove it. Take this nut out, or this bolt, and tap that out, and then get those off. Thank you guys for watching. You don't have to like or subscribe. I just want you to fix your shit, so go out there and fix it, all right? See ya.